So, where are we going to get our problems from today?
We are going to get them from the book, and let me pull those up right now.
Okay. I was going to say, if you want to go to that website and paste it into the chat window, I can pull that website up also. But the book is fine.
Alright, so I still want to do some review on factoring. Not as much as yesterday, but still some. So I'm going to send you a picture of a page with a bunch of factoring problems.
Okay. Let me know when you've sent that. So, did you play around at all with factoring on your calculator?
Yeah, I did a couple problems on there.
Okay. Now, do you know how to update your operating system?
Not on the calculator, no.
Do you have the original package that the calculator came in?
I think I do, but I have no idea where it is.
Because when I got mine off of Amazon, I got a license number at the bottom that allows me to upload my or upgrade my software at any point in time. And you would love the upgraded software. It is way superior to the software you have. The way I showed you how to factor yesterday was rather complicated compared to the way I can factor on my calculator. So all I have to do is hit the thing says factor and put in the expression, and it factors it for me. I don't have to go through that that nonsense with the polynomial and all of that.
All right, it's sending now.
All right.
We have an hour today, right?
Uh-huh.
All right, it just sent.
All right. It takes a little bit for it to get here. More than a little. There it is. You might have to hold the camera a little bit steadier. I don't know. We might be able to make these out.
Yeah, let me send it again. I don't know what's wrong.
Usually this is caused by not holding it steady enough. Almost hold your breath when you take the picture. Go ahead and send it again, but in the meantime, we can work off of this. I can see this enough.
I don't know, for some reason it's doing it on all of them, and I'm like bracing my arm against it.
Huh.
Is that legible enough?
We can work off of this. Whatever I'm not able to read, you can tell me what it is. Like number 5 looks to me like 16k squared minus 1. Is that right?
Number 5? Yeah.
Okay. So immediately when you see a squared term and no k term and a constant, you should think of something.
Okay.
What is this?
That's a square, not square root, a
difference.
System of squares. Yeah,
difference of squares. Okay, what does this factor into?
4k minus 1 and 4k plus 1.
Okay. $121x squared minus 1. Now, I'm curious about something. You have your calculator with you?
I do.
Pull it up.
Oh. Okay.
Go to Scratchpad.
Yep.
Menu.
Mm-hmm.
Number, which on mine is number 2.
Yeah, it is on mine too.
And then factor.
Yeah.
And then type 121 in there.
Yep.
Enter.
Yep.
So what is 121?
11 squared.
So this is equal to what?
11, what is it, 11x?
Uh-huh.
And 11x. Yeah.
Remember, it's always minus the square root of that and plus the square root of that. Okay. This looks like 4y squared plus 20y plus 25. You can almost do this in your head, and I'll bet you are going to, because you like to do these in one step instead of multiple. What is this?
2y.
What are the signs?
The same, which means they're plus.
What are factors of 25?
5 and 5, 25 and 1.
Does 5 and 5 work?
10 and 1. Yes, it does.
Okay. You want to try this one on your calculator? Or
yeah,
not?
Sure. So menu, number, factor.
Yeah. Go to the scratch pad. So
yeah.
in this case, you don't want number, you want algebra. So hit menu, number 3, algebra.
Yeah.
And then the way you have to do it is polynomial tools.
Okay.
And then find the roots of a polynomial, which is number 1.
All right.
This is a second degree. Tab down to the OK and hit Enter.
Okay.
Now put the coefficients. 4 is the first one. Tab to the next spot, 20. Tab to the third, 25. Tab to the OK, hit Enter. And notice that it tells you it's going to factor this as a factor of x. And you have to hit Enter again. Mine gave me minus 5 halves and minus 5 halves.
That's what mine gave me.
And that is the answer. Now, notice that it didn't give 2y plus 5. It gave y is equal to minus 5 halves. Well, I know my factor is y minus 5 halves. That's my factor. But that's the same thing as 2y minus plus 5. Excuse me, if my
Okay.
answer is minus 5 halves, then my factor is y minus that, which is y plus 5 halves.
Mm-hmm.
And then you convert that to numbers by multiplying by 2 to get 2y plus 5. So
Yep.
your calculator doesn't exactly factor it in the way you want it to. Mine does, incidentally. If you can figure out how to upgrade your operating system, then you will get...
Yes, I will definitely do that.
Yeah, when I hit menu, algebra, I get factor as one of my choices. Then all I have to do is type in 4y squared plus 20y plus 25, and it'll factor it. Won't solve it, it'll factor it. This one solves it, which can be beneficial, but not as valuable.
So yours actually comes out to 2y plus 5 when you do it on yours?
Let me try it, just to guarantee that that's the case. Okay, hit algebra, I hit 2, which is factor, and I hit 4x squared plus 20x plus 25, enter, 2x plus 5 squared. Like I said, changing math education forevermore. Seriously, factoring will no longer be a skill. You won't need to do it after a while. But, unfortunately for you, I bet you're going to have to do it for a few years. So, we really ought to figure out how to get you to figure out how to do these manually also. All right, let's look at 8. 9x squared, especially since your calculator isn't yet upgraded. Okay, help me here.
3x. 3x, let's go.
Signs have to be what?
Both negative.
Factors of 16.
Yeah. 16 and 1, 8 and 2, 4 and 4.
Does that work?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Now, if you don't want to go over all of these, holler, because some of them are pretty...
If I were to type number 8 into a calculator, would the first term be 9, the second one be negative 24, the third one be 16?
Yes.
Okay.
And it would have given you the answer 4/3. Let's go back. In other words, it would have told you that you have 4/3, comma, 4/3. Those are your two answers. So how do we convert those to factors? Well, if 4/3 is the answer, it means x minus 4/3 is the factor.
You'd have to multiply by 3. So the 3's would cancel out on the fraction and it'd turn into 3x minus 4.
Exactly. So that's how you take your calculator answer that you're going to be able to get and move it into a factor. All right, how about 16x squared minus 25? What are we going to look for because we're missing an x?
This is opposite signs.
It's difference of squares.
Oh, that's...
Remember that expression. You can't imagine how often you're going to need to use that. Not the expression, but to recognize it. In other words, it's actually, at Algebra 2 level, it's called difference of perfect squares. Because both of these are perfect squares. In reality, it doesn't have to be perfect square. In other words, I can say, what does x minus 7 factor into? And guess what? That factors into square root of x minus square root of 7 times square root of x plus square root of 7. Get it?
Yeah.
Okay. In other words, at higher math, it's difference of squares. At this math, it's always going to be difference of perfect squares. So what is this?
4x minus 5, 4x plus 5.
Well, I can 4k squared minus 81. I don't need to write these out anymore. Just answer that.
Which one?
10.
4h squared. 2h. 2h minus 9 squared.
Not squared. Remember, the key with difference of squares is their sign is opposite. It's always a plus b times a minus b.
Okay.
So this is 2h minus 9 times 2h plus 9, which is different. That's very different from 2h minus 9 quantity squared. About number 9. No, we did that one already. How about number 11? I better write this one down. 11 looks to me like 121x squared minus 66. What's that, those two variables?
11 as, oh wait, the middle variable is negative 66 st.
St, okay.
Yeah.
This
And then plus 9t.
9t squared. Okay,
Yeah.
we looked at a problem like this yesterday. So, if the t wasn't there, what would the answer be? In other words, based just on this term, let's start.
11x.
What's the signs?
Negative, both negative.
Now give me factors of 9t squared.
9 and 1 and 3 and 3.
It's not 9 and 1, it's 3t and 3t.
Oh, 3t, sorry.
Okay, well, and that's critical because that's the only way you're going to get the answer. I'm going to try the first two closest. Well, that's 33tx. That's another 33tx. 66st. I'm sorry, I guess this was an S or an X. It doesn't matter. You get it, right? Any questions on this one?
Nope.
Okay. It's definitely stepping it up a notch in degree of difficulty. Okay.
Let's do a couple more, and then I think I'm good on factoring.
Okay. 16, what is the middle term? Plus 40xy plus 25y squared.
Yep. So you got 4x. Both signs are positive. And then factor of 5. And then do 5y. And yes, that works.
Okay. What else you want to go to? You know, there might be some factoring problems that are a little different. And notice it looks like we have difference of cubes. How about we do one of those? 17.
All right.
Is that a t?
Yeah, t cubed minus 27.
Okay, what does that factor into?
T minus 3, and then t squared minus 3t.
This sign is always opposite this sign.
Oh, plus
whether it's
3t.
whether it's difference of cubes or sum of cubes. We'll do both. So this is always a plus. That's this times that.
And then 9 squared.
Just 9. 3 squared. Now let's do this one.
T plus 3. T squared minus 3t plus 9.
Okay. That's sum of cubes and difference of cubes in a nutshell right there.
All right.
Okay, let me look at some others here to see if there's anything different. Obviously, number 20, let's look at 20. You got to do something different with 20. 3x squared y to the 4th minus 81x squared y.
Yep.
This is not a typical quadratic. This is a greatest common factor problem. So what's the greatest common factor that I can factor out? Do I have my numbers right here? Is this y to the 4th?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So what's the biggest number you can factor out? Ignoring the variables for a moment.
27.
Okay, first of all, it can't be bigger than cannot be bigger than your smallest number.
Or 3, sorry.
Okay. How about the
Usually
x
that's
term? How many x's can I factor out?
2.
How many y's?
1.
And what am I left with?
Y cubed minus 27.
Okay, let's take this further because what is this called?
Difference of cubes.
Okay.
Y minus 3. Y squared plus 3y plus 9.
Good. You don't ever have to worry about needing to factor that. That will not ever factor down further. All right.
Okay. I have some review questions as well that.
Okay. You want to go to now? Are these not on this page?
No.
Okay. Go ahead. You going to verbalize these, or are you going to send them?
Let's see if my camera cooperates.
Okay. What kind of camera are you using? What kind of smartphone?
It's a Samsung Galaxy S2.
Do you know what pixels the camera is?
I know it's 8 megapixels.
8 megapixels? Okay. My camera's only 5, and mine takes really clear pictures. So I'm sure it's not, you may not have it set at 8 megapixels. When you get your camera, you might pull up your options and check to make sure you got it on its highest setting. Because mine can actually be set on lower megapixels if I don't know any better. I have a Droid I have a Droid also operating system. And when you get your camera shot ready, if you hit, you can see all the options that your camera is set up.
Okay.
Might be the light, but from the looks of that picture, it looked to me like it's not a question of light. Light helps. More light you have, the better. But
all right. I'm getting a new phone soon, though.
Okay. Gonna get the Samsung Galaxy 4.
Either that, the Note 3, or the new iPhone.
My son got the Samsung Galaxy 4 and loves it. Just loves it. He had an iPhone before that.
Okay, that one was a lot better.
Okay.
All right. The first part is sending now.
My own personal feelings is that Google will own the world at some day.
Probably.
They got their these new, have you heard of these Google glasses that are coming out?
I have.
Oh, that is something else. That is the future, if you ask me. Without a doubt. 5 years' time, everybody's going to be walking around with those things on.
There's been mixed reviews about them, though.
I know.
That I've read, anyway.
I have too. I have too. And it's probably not perfected, but,
oh, yeah.
You know, they're dealing with a first draft product. But the concept, to me, is what is the future. Having your phone,
yeah,
so you don't have to pull it out of your pocket and look down, so that you're always looking at it. Boy, that was good. That's better quality than I ever get with my 5 megapixels.
Yeah, I don't know what was up when I was taking pictures of the textbook.
Okay. Determine the missing factor of the given factoring parameters. So you were given 5x cubed plus 6y to the fourth? And the answer obviously is the conjugate of that. You know what conjugate means?
No.
That's the conjugate of that. In other words, the same two terms, different sign.
Okay.
Actually, you made a mistake in writing this. This fourth power right here does not go outside the parenthesis sign. It goes inside. And in fact, it means something different. What you have here is this whole quantity to the fourth power. And that's not what you want. You want just the y to be to the fourth power.
Okay.
Okay? This is difference
of cubes.
Number B? Number B can't be factored.
Or not cubes, sorry, squares.
It's the sum of squares. But sum of squares can't be factored. This does not factor to this. Not sure what you're looking for an answer. Do you have an answer key on this quiz?
It might be on our website.
Because this doesn't factor. In other words, when you have the sum of an even number, whether it's the sum of squares, the sum of quartics, the sum of sixth power, it's not going to factor. X squared plus 4 does x squared plus 4 does not factor down. Nor does
Yeah,
x.
she has it written on the answer key as x squared plus 4, x plus 2, x minus 2.
She has the answer key as what?
In the first set of parentheses, x squared plus 4. In the second set, x plus 2. In the third set, x minus 2.
Which is x squared minus 4. So she's saying it's x squared plus 4 times x squared minus 4? I don't think so, not with a plus sign in the 16. If that was a minus 16, she'd be correct.
No, like in the second set of parentheses is x plus 2, and then in the third set it's x minus 2.
Right. But notice what these multiply together to. This.
Yeah.
Okay, and this multiplied by that does not give you x to the fourth plus 16. Gives you x to the fourth minus 16.
Okay.
Okay, so her answer key is not correct for this. If you don't believe me, multiply it out. In other words, x plus 2 times x minus 2 equals x squared minus 4, but then x squared minus 4 times x squared plus 4 is equal to x to the fourth minus 16. This doesn't factor at all.
Okay.
So I think she probably had a typo here. She meant to put minus 16 instead of plus 16. Then her answer would have made sense. Then we would have been looking at difference of squares, but we're not there. Okay, so sum and difference of cubes. Looks like you got, is this your answer or hers?
Mine.
Okay, that's correct. What about this one?
I didn't do that one.
Okay, so what's the answer we're looking for?
It's backwards down.
Work backwards, yeah. So first of all, what's the sign got to be here?
They're different.
It's got to be plus, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, does it matter? Let's put our things in proper order here. It's going to make it easier to see the answer. 16y squared there, and the 36 back here. So, what is the first factor going to be?
4y.
What's the sign going to be?
Negative.
It's always the opposite of that sign.
Positive.
Uh-huh. Well, it's the opposite of this sign, and this sign's negative. So, and what's the last number? Square root of this number right here.
6.
Okay, now let's put it all back together and see what we started with. We obviously started with the sum of cubes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be 64y cubed plus 6 cubed. In other words, if we started with that, this is the way it would factor. We would take the cube root of this plus the cube root of that. Well, the cube root of the first term is 4y. The cube root of 6 cubed is 6. And then the second term is 4y squared minus that times that, which is 24y, plus this squared. Okay, I like these problems. They do make you think about these a little bit more. Okay, factoring by grouping. This is not something you and I have talked about. Looks like you get it. Is that 4x minus 3?
Yeah.
Okay, so instead of factoring out a monomial term, we're factoring out a binomial term. Process is still exactly the same. Whatever it is we're factoring out, we're going to divide into each of these terms, and that's what we have left. So this is 4x minus this 3. And this is going to be x minus 9 times what's left after you factor out x minus 9.
7x cubed plus, would that be a plus 1?
It should be a plus 1. So we have 7x cubed, excuse me, because there's more stuff we can do here. I don't know if she wants you to do it or not, but x minus 9 is the binomial factor, and it leaves behind 7x cubed plus 1. Now, notice that that's the sum of cubes. It isn't the sum of perfect cubes. So I don't know if she wants you to take it this far, but she might. Let me tell you what my answer would be here. The first term is going to be the cube root of that. So you could write the cube root of 7 times x plus 1 times the cube root of 7 squared, which is 7 to the 2/3, x minus a times b, which is 7 to the 1/3 plus 1. So I'm guessing she probably doesn't need that answer there. She's probably she's probably satisfied with this.
I'm honestly not even sure we'd have to go down that far, but better safe than sorry.
Oh no, for sure you need the 7x cubed plus 1. You definitely, well, you don't necessarily need it like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean to write it like that. You need what I've got on top there. That's what you need.
Yeah.
That's the answer she's looking for.
Yeah, factoring by grouping is probably the easiest one.
Good. Okay. Well, you know, it doesn't really come up very often. There's very few opportunities to do that, even if you start with a cubic polynomial. It's the rare cubic polynomial that factors by grouping.
Okay.
Perfect square trinomials, looks like you got that one down pat. How about this one here? How do we get 3x squared? We took the square root of 9x to the 4th.
Yep.
So how do we get our second term?
Would it be 2?
The square root of 16.
Oh, square root 8 or 4, sorry.
And that whole thing squared. Notice that when we square this whole thing, we get this trinomial right here. So the way we factor it is we take the square root of that. Well, we try 3x and 3x is what we do. And then we try 4 and 4, and that works. Okay. What's this called? Forget I said that. It's not called anything. Must be something missing here. Oh, we're supposed to fill in that number. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did answer B. 16 was the correct answer. I get it. Okay. So in this case, we know that if it's a perfect square, that's going to be the first term. How are we going to get 160xy in the middle? Knowing the middle has to be 2xy. So what must this last term be? It's got to have a y in it, right?
Would it be 40xy?
80. Excuse me. Yeah, 80. No. Now I'm getting confused. 8. Because what's the last term going to be?
1.
10. In other words, 10y. Sorry. And this is xy here. Yeah, I'm all confused here. Yeah, sorry. Okay. This is our term. Why is this our term? Because when I square this, after all, we are doing perfect square trinomials. So if this is the perfect square, what would I end up with? I would end up with 10x squared minus 2ab. Well, a is 10x, and b has to therefore be 8y in order to get 160xy as the middle term. Let's go through that logic again. That's a little complicated. So we're told that it's a perfect trinomial, so we know the answer has to be something squared. We know the first term has to be 10x. We know the sign has to be minus. So now whatever it is we put here, I'll call that question mark. What I know is that 2 times 10x times question mark has to equal 160xy. Correct?
Yeah.
If you solve that for question mark, you get 8y. I hope there's another one like it. Don't think there is. No, that was the third one. So what goes here is 8y.
Okay.
No, excuse me. That's the factor. Sorry, I'm confusing myself, let alone you. That's what we're looking at. So what has to go here?
10?
This squared. Remember,
16 or 64?
64y squared. Here's what we have. We have a minus b squared. Okay?
Yep.
That's equal to a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Well, they're looking for the b squared term in the fill in the blank here. Well, so first of all, we have to solve for b. Well, the information we're given is that minus 2ab is equal to minus 160xy. So that allows us to solve for the b term. B term is 8y. And since this is b squared, that's 64y squared.
Okay.
Those are actually really good problems to get you to understand factoring, I think, and to memorize those two very important a plus b squared and a minus b squared. You kind of have to work backwards on those. So what they gave you here, everything that's not filled in pencil, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the only thing you got wrong here is the signs are always opposite when we're doing sum and difference of cubes. So if it's 3y, it has to be plus
Okay.
4x multiplied,
Okay.
that's the a term squared, that's that squared. This is opposite sign, the product of those two terms, so that's 12xy. And this last term is this term squared, 16x squared. So you got everything right except the sign is always opposite. Whether you're doing sum or difference, this is opposite from this.
Okay.
Okay, let's see, B. Let's do it this way. Now, let's do it the way they suggested doing it. What's this term right here?
I don't know.
It's the square root of this term.
7.
Let's go through it again. A cubed minus B cubed equals A minus B times A squared plus AB plus B squared. So the term they gave us was this one right here. So you see why I said this has to be the square root of that term?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, the middle term is what?
28x squared.
Good. And the last term is what?
16x.
To the fourth.
Because
you have to square that term. In other words, B is 4x squared.
Okay.
No, it isn't. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That is the right answer. In other words, here's what I started with. Let me write that down below. What I started with was 7 cubed minus, to agree with this sign there, this cubed, which would be 64x to the 6th. Okay, that was the beginning that gave me, in other words, if I factor this bottom thing, I'm going to get that. Because what do I get? I get, starting off a minus b, which is 7 minus the cube root of that, which is 4x squared. And then the rest of it, this is 7 squared, 49. Opposite sign, a times b, 28x squared, plus this term squared, 16x to the 4th. So this does, there's what we started with, the difference of perfect cubes. Okay, difference of squares. Okay, this is pretty easy. what is this term right here? Can you see my cursor when I wiggle it like that?
Yeah.
So what does that have to be?
4xy.
Difference of squares. A squared minus b squared is a minus b times a plus b. What is a?
2.
A is 2xy. Remember, they're giving us difference of squares that have been factored already. It's a little confusing what they're doing. In fact, I can't say I've ever seen problems like this, but Chatfield tends to go beyond. In other words, what we're looking at here is this, right? That's by definition difference of squares. And that's equal to a minus b times a plus b. Mm-hmm. So in this case, they're saying that this is difference of squares. There's the a minus b. And this is the a plus b. So what is a?
A is 4xy squared.
No. In other words, this is already factored here. So this corresponds to this. So a minus b is that. So we know a has to be this term. What does b have to be? B has to be that term. So this has to be a minus 5z to the fourth times a 2xy plus 5z to the fourth. See how these are being done?
Yeah, now I do.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. They've tricked it up so much that it's very confusing. But, okay, so let's do this one here.
Okay, hold on, I'm writing this down.
What's b going to be?
14h squared.
That would be a.
B is 81, or 9.
9. Remember, a squared minus b squared equals a minus b times a plus b. We are looking at the factored form. So this number right here is b. It's got a plus sign in front of it. So it's this quantity right here. So actually, b is 9. And a is 14h squared.
Okay.
So what goes here? Yep.
14.
14h squared. That is a. What goes here?
Positive. Or negative.
Negative, and then what goes here? 9. Right. So that's all they're doing here. Is they're showing you the factored form. It's a little squirrely, actually, now that I think about it. Because you never have that as a real-life problem. Okay. Seems like I've seen this problem multiple times. You want to try doing this in your calculator, or you want to do it manually?
Right, my calculator.
Try it in your calculator, see if you get it. It's not that hard to do manually because we have very limited factors of both 2 and 3.
I got 1, 3 over 2 is the answers.
Okay, so if you got 1, 3 over 2, both positive?
Yeah.
So what are the factors going to be?
2x minus 1 and 2x minus 3.
Okay, the reason you got 3 halves as an answer because it was this 2 right there. So if there was a 3 right there, I would have gotten an answer of 3 halves, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to put a 3 there, and then the 1 goes there. And that also factors normally. In other words, we only had choices for 3 of 3 and 1, and so 3 and 1 work. But the 3 has to go here, the 1 has to go here. I guess what I'm trying to get you to see is how to take the answers your calculator gives you and take it back to the factors. In other words, if I generated factors from these answers, I know that x is equal to 1 and 3 halves. That means my factors are x minus 1 and x minus 3 halves. But we don't ever have fractional factors because I can actually multiply this by a constant. Well, that constant's going to be 2.
Yeah, I just made a math mistake when I was solving it. I thought I did it as 3 with the numerator by accident.
Okay. All right. These are good problems. They're a lot different than anything we've been working on so far. Let's look at this one because these always gave me trouble. Since they're asking us to factor an expression, it's not really proper to go through and divide everything by -1.
Yeah.
So let's work with what they gave us. It's got to be minus x and x, correct?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now the signs. We know they got to be the same.
They're both positive.
Notice that that's going to give us a negative middle term if they're both positive. No matter what numbers I put here, whether it's 11 and 8, oh no, this one works. My mistake. They are both positive. See, I told you I had trouble factoring when there was a negative sign in front of that. I'm thinking, what happens if we do divide everything by 1 and turn this into an expression that says this, which then factors into x minus 11 times x plus 8. Same thing. Same 2 factors. See why this one is same as, oh no, it's not the same 2 factors. Excuse me, it's a negative sign in front. So there's the secret. Here, let me show you how to do these. Here's the secret. Do factor out the negative, leaving behind this, and then just work with that. Got to bring the negative forth, like this. But then this factors pretty easily. X minus 11, x plus 8. You see what I did?
Yeah.
In other words, I can't ignore the negative sign. I have to bring it forth. But by factoring out a -1, it does allow me to work with a positive coefficient on the x squared term, which personally I find easier. Maybe it doesn't matter to you. But this is the way I would do these problems if I was doing them. I would factor out the -1. If the problem is equal to 0, then it's a piece of cake. I'll just divide both sides by -1. And there's no problem then. But when they just give you an expression and they say factor it, you kind of have to do it this way.
Okay.
All right. I mean, you don't have to. You can But you notice that you didn't have the negative sign here. You need a negative sign in front of that.
Okay.
Or you need one of these x's to be negative is what you need. You would have the right answer with minus x plus 11 times x plus 8. But x and x don't give you a minus x squared term. So that doesn't really work. All right. Let's, well, we'll do whatever you're working on Tuesday night. But let's end it now.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
All right.
This was good stuff here. You might even want to consider, if you're going to be quizzed on problems like this,
I have no idea. That's what I'm asking her tomorrow.
I would watch this afterwards.